Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. It's Tom LeNoble. It's great to have you with me again. I'm Jon Sheldon from Bellawood coaching with me today, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation. John, it's great to see you again. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Tom. It's awesome to see you too, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to know what it was that you had the spark to start your company. And before you answer that question, tell the viewers a little about it, please.
Yeah, so I'm primarily a leadership and teaming coach. I work with organizations, salespeople, anybody that's really interested in growing themselves and their businesses. I primarily work with business owners, but I try to just be as authentic as I possibly can with people in a world full of noise. And what really sparked it for me was I was actually working with a coach, and I had always been that guy growing up when I was in the Marines, even in my professional corporate careers, where people would come to for both personal and professional advice. And it's something that I've always deeply cared about. I deeply care about leading yourself and leading others. I deeply care about authenticity, and that's what I try and bring to the table. And what really sparked it for me was I was working with a coach in my corporate career, and she actually said, "Hey, you ever? I know that you're a mentor to like a bunch of people. You ever think about kind of transitioning?" And I said, "Honestly, not really, but let's might as well think about it, right?" And I kind of really started falling in love immediately with the idea of it, of just like, Tom, not to go down a rabbit hole, but I always believed in this kind of really flawed thinking that like, if I just, quite frankly, made enough money, I could just do all the things that I was passionate about. Right. And then man, I was totally wrong. Once I started doing this and realized, wow, living your passion, what you're really good at, is so fulfilling. And that was the spark for me. I fell in love with it immediately. And I just never really looked back.
John, thank you for your service.
Thank
Um,
you.
Tell me this, please. What part, when you started it, and you went, were you on this path and you went, this is it. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. What happened that made you feel that?
Yeah, it was a client conversation I had. Actually, business owner, won't get into too many of the details, but business owner really primarily hired me to work on specifically growing his team, his leadership abilities and his team in general, structure wise and stuff like that. And I remember him coming to the call and he just looked off, you know, and I was like, "Hey man, like what's going on?" And he started going into some of this personal stuff that he was doing with him and his significant other. And the entire session was ended up being mostly about that. And I'll never forget that text that he sent me afterwards. It was like this very heartfelt, very personal, "Hey man, I know this isn't," he kept reiterating, "Hey, I know this wasn't why I hired you," or whatever. And I kept saying, like, "Look, this is life, right? You can't lead yourself and you can't lead your business if you're not, leading your life, right?" And these are really important things, that life is all about balance and counterbalance. And his message to me, that almost like that word of affirmation, is almost what I needed to really be like, okay, that just filled me. That filled my cup overflowing. You know what I mean? That was it for me. Like that, just that single text message. It wasn't super long, a couple sentences, and it just meant the world to me, coming from a young man who was struggling with a relationship, right? Trying to grow a business, and there was just something looming on his mind.
This kind of affirmations are really wonderful to see and know that you're actually helping someone. Tell
Yeah.
me, what personal values guided you from the start?
Personal values. Um, One of my personal values is honesty. I think that the world needs it. Again, I feel like a lot, especially with social media, there's so much noise out there, so many voices. But are we listening to our own, I guess? And then the other one is one that I truly deeply believe in, is being courageous, right? I think life is every day there's this. It's not all these Medal of Honor moments, right? There's all these little instances of being just personally courageous that I think is deeply seated into my soul that I really gravitate towards. And if there was two that I could put my name on, it would be those two. And then again, that word I've brought up a couple of times, that authenticity word, right? Just be your authentic self, and obviously, be kind and all that type of thing. Like if your authentic self is not a good person, that's probably another issue. But being your authentic self, I think is massively important, right? And just kind of owning that, like, this is who I am, you know?
So tell me this, did you ever doubt your vision along this journey?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I doubted it. My wife doubted it, for sure. In healthy ways. I think being a healthy skeptic is important in life. But yeah, of course I did. There's a couple of, especially when you first start getting, like I started out pretty hot and got a lot of yeses, we'll call it, quickly. People that I'd been mentoring for a while, and that obviously felt really good. And they gave me the traction, at least, hey, this, you can make this work, right? Then you get some no's, you get some clients that don't resign, you do all these kind of things, and it does make you second guess. I think for me, when clients, when maybe I don't, and was really poor thinking at the time, now that I say it out loud, but when I didn't think maybe the client was done working with me, right, but they decided to move on, I think those were the times I second guessed it the most. And that's quite frankly, again, now that I say it out loud, that's more of an ego thing for my part at that point in time,
Yes, yes, yes. Did you ever have a belief or assumption early on that turned out to be completely wrong?
Oh yeah. I think, originally I didn't think that people were going to be willing to pay what I needed to survive and running this business. I had that limiting belief for sure. Just on the very financial aspect of it, I was like, okay, but can this be financially viable as well, right? Yeah, I think that's one of the first ones that happened. After that natural market, your quote unquote natural market moved on, getting into more of that marketing strategy and running the business, getting busy. There's a bunch of times where it's caused doubt, and doubts creeped into your mind, right?
Yes, they do. And that's when we need a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
People ask me, Tom, does a coach have a coach? And my answer is, does a dentist feel their own fillings? I mean, So I want to take it back. I want to go back a little bit, because
Okay.
typically all of us have a backstory of someone that was in our life that was a role model or something to us that created who we are today. And who was that for Jon?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, it the one that pulls out to me in my mind right now is actually one of my best friends, who I had the privilege of meeting in the Marine Corps. And um, he had this confidence in who he was, and that I found magnetic. Of like, I think I thought I was a confident person, but I think if I really diagnosed it back in my late teens, early 20s, I don't think I was. I think it was like a pretty good mask I was wearing. And when I finally found that person who ended up becoming my best friend to this day, he's really somebody I looked up to and still do in a lot of ways. Like his determination, his dedication to his family, his unwavering authenticity in any situation, right? The respect that he holds for other people's values. And again, but this kind of like unwaveringness to his goals and his vision, I've just always found super energetic and something that I admire. And there's a lot of other people, but he's the one that pops out the most to me. And I think what was the most surprising is, um, I feel like most people, including myself, immediately, and even when you asked me this question, Tom, I immediately thought of like someone much older than me, much more experienced than me. My dad popped into my mind, and my father is a role model of mine in many, many ways. But when I really pull it out, what the first name that comes out of my mouth would be his, and his name's Casey. But and there's just so many things again that I admire, you know.
Yes, great to have these people.
Yeah.
What identity did you have to let go in the beginning? Was there something that was going on that when she stepped into this and she got into it, you had to go, well, I need to shed that.
Yeah. Um, um, I think what I needed to shatter was this thought that I needed to be more successful than my clients. I think that's the biggest thing, that walking into this new role that I really had to shatter. I think I walked into a lot of like first client meetings or whatever, thinking like, and getting some of those intrusive thoughts of that imposter syndrome a little bit of like, I need to be, why is this person getting on a call with me? You know? And I think I had to let go of that. I still work on that a little bit, right? But I think I really had to come to grips with the value that I bring to the world. And yeah, and I think that's a little bit of ego too, you know, but I think it's a lot of that imposter syndrome I think everybody struggles with, but to an extent. But I think that's what I had to really start letting go of immediately. Otherwise, I don't think I would be able to continue to do this. Yeah.
Yes, the imposter syndrome will meet you, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that I'm with you, but I think everybody has a little, most people have a little bit of it. And sometimes it gets amped up and sometimes it calms down. But it is, so what was the biggest turning point?
Um, the biggest turning point so far was really just the amount of, I feel very humbled, especially recently, in a very cool way. Just filled with a ton of gratitude of the people that I had those 15-minute conversations where they needed just to pick somebody's, objective brain on or something like that. Like I mentioned earlier, I was that guy for so many people. Recently, within the last couple months, they've really come out of the woodwork to not only support, but promote my business. And that's done a lot for me on my mentality around it. Which is why I kind of make that as that big breakthrough of like, man, this feels good, that the work that I've put in my whole life of just being, in my opinion, just a good person and a good friend and a good husband and a good brother and a good son, right? Trying to be the best person of that. It does come back, if you need it to, right? And it's not something that I've asked for. And it's something that, again, people are just coming out of the woodwork to support. And that means a lot to me. And then securing some of the larger, what I would call like institutional contracts, has felt really good too, that whole businesses have chosen to, entrust some of their coaching with me, which is a good confidence boost, good breakthrough,
I'm interested in knowing in this process, what do you learn about trust?
Oof. uh, man, okay. What have I learned about trust? Man, that's a good question, Tom. What I think I've learned about trust is that maybe that you have to, it's a two-way street. I think that's what's coming to my mind. It's a two-way street. And, there's a lot of collaborators, we'll call it, that you work with, and you could run into that, again, scarcity mindset of they're going to steal my ideas, or I shouldn't share this framework. And that's a lack of trust. And I've had some people that I've built good relationships with just be so overly generous. And I've had to go back and kind of challenge myself and be like, if my first thought was, what do they want? That's a me problem. Right. and what is going on with myself that I need to trust this person? Otherwise, why are we even in the conversation with them? And I think that's what it is. It's this two-way street, but it starts with one, right? It starts with taking a step of faith almost, right? For lack of a better term. And I think that's what I've learned in this experience thus far is that, yeah, you know what, if it takes a little bit of faith, it takes a little bit of goodwill, right? Whatever you want to call it, to make that two-way street. And somebody's got to kind of quote unquote break first, I guess.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Having a little vulnerability, which is
Yeah.
that's right. So tell me, how does John decide when to pivot or push through?
Great question. I think I have a problem with trying to just push through too much, Tom, if I'm being honest with you. um, and I'm working on pivoting. So um, I would love to say that I have a great answer for this, but it is probably the number one thing that I'm working on right at this very exact moment. And what I've come to the conclusion of, in just the way that my brain works, is I call it creating like an idea filter, right? And creating qualifications that if an idea or an opportunity or a relationship doesn't pass, having it at least as a baseline to kind of trigger of, this might not be working, John, right? Or this might not be the best opportunity. And maybe you shouldn't try and push through this idea. Maybe it's time to pivot. That's what I've been working on right now, is trying to stick to almost like a rules of life type of thing. I call it the idea filter. It's just a name I've put on it for myself, really. But that's been working to an extent, but it's a good start, I'd say. It's what I'm using as my foundation, we'll call it. And then obviously there's some, subjectivity and objectivity that you have to put into every decision. But that's kind of where I'm starting.
It's hard to know who ever to do with this. Was there one that maybe they weren't aligned or just didn't match up? Was there one of those that you had to just say, no, I'm not doing this?
Yeah. Yep. I think especially in the beginning when you're trying to build your own brand, saying no to a potential client, it's pretty tough, right? Yeah, I think those early ones where there was just a very clear values misalignment. That one specifically with a client that we were actually it was a kind of when you mark it down, Tom, it's kind of like this ideal client when you put them on paper. It's like this person checks all these boxes, right? It's right in your wheelhouse. You feel so awesome. And then I remember I was feeling super off, probably like 4 sessions in. I was feeling kind of off with the whole relationship. It was going very differently than I kind of imagined it in my mind. And I remember they were business partners. One of the business partners finally spoke up and, kind of challenged a very core piece of my business and who I am. And after some self-reflection, we had to put an end to that relationship. And I think that was tough because when you look at it, it's like, this is a great opportunity for myself and my family and for potential clients. And you've got that business hat on, right? But at the end of the day, one of the reasons I'm so in love with what I do is that it's me, right? And it's kind of sink or fail on who I am and building a brand around this person that I've become. And if that's not in alignment, it's really hard, especially in the beginning, to tell somebody, hey, this isn't a good fit. Here's your money back. Right?
Yeah. I agree. Or something that's unwilling rather to do the work, unwilling to
Yes.
willing to move from their position, and they're saying they want to. They don't behave that way. Every opportunity they still don't want to go down the path they requested to go down. It's an interesting thing. So tell me this: what are you most proud of, not professionally, but personally?
What am I? Yeah, great one. I am most proud of the work. You know what? I am most proud of the work that I've done in my marriage and in my relationship. I think you want me to elaborate. I think that yeah. I think there's a lot of stigmas about maybe it's a stigma that I've always felt, or something about, maybe it's because I'm, prior military or whatever it is, of like getting help, getting therapy, asking for outside guidance. I think there's this, probably this macho man type of mentality that you kind of have to get through. And one of the most proudest things, and that my wife and I talk about all the time, is both of us are pretty strong-willed, strong-minded. And it got to a point where we really couldn't figure out some of these issues that we're having, right? And I had been really against, honestly, going to therapy at that point in time. And I think that the proudest moment for me was, again, I've mentioned this word ego a bunch of times, but of kind of letting that go a little bit. And the immediate change that it had for what I was saying was the most important thing in my life, right, was super eye-opening, of like, how am I actually showing up to that being the most important thing in my life, right? If I'm building this business, if I'm building this brand, all for the life that I'm trying to build with my wife and my family and the people that I serve, right? But there's this major part that I'm not putting the effort into myself. It's kind of a values misalignment, right? Like we were talking about earlier, what are those values that you have? So getting to that core one, honesty, it's like, was I being really honest with myself? Was I putting the work in? Right. I'm trying to get people to work with a coach, if obviously, like, not selling them on it necessarily, but like, do you need it? Sure. I might be a great fit for you. Why am I not doing the same thing with something that obviously is needed in my relationship? Right. And that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is the work that we've done. It's been a tough path. It's been a really rewarding path. And we've seen just incredible results. And one of the best things is, man, our communication is so much better now. Just
Sounds
so much
like
better.
a great growth opportunity for you as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sometimes we have to dismantle our structures of knowing to see what the path is ahead, and what worked before maybe isn't working so well right now in the present. So tell me this: how do you balance being a leader with being a learner?
Ooh. Uh, hmm. Tom, you're good at these. These are great. Um,
Thank you.
I I think the most practical um, response to that is, I set aside the time to be a learner. Um, I specifically run my life, and on Fridays, it's all, my entire day is set aside for personal development. Um, and I think that's really, really important. The older I've gotten, the more important I feel like that is. And I think on a very structural level, Fridays, and setting the time and setting the space aside to be that, to learn, I think is really, really helpful. And I also think not always needing to be the leader is really important too. And just to be the learner, to be the follower in some situations, I think is helpful. Like going back to Casey, my friend there, who I've mentioned, being a role model of mine. When he talks, I listen, and I switch that leader brain off for a couple minutes on the phone. He lives across country, so it's we don't see each other very often, and I think that's a part of it too. So it's setting the time aside, and also realizing, like, hey, I need to turn this off right now. I don't need to be the leader. I need to learn. Right? I need to learn from somebody else. And it happens that, I think that can happen throughout the day, and to recognize your space and where you're at. And I think to keep an open mind to conversations, and listen more than you talk, right? I'm doing a lot of talking today, but to listen more than you talk, and hold the space, not only in your calendar, but also in your brain, to learn.
Yes, I think what I learn from my clients, sometimes even in the presence of one coaching them and working with them, I learn something too, and love to learn. It's a great opportunity. I really need to be open and listen to my just come away and be able to. So tell me this: what's the longest vision for your business in the next 5 years?
Could you repeat the beginning of that question again, Tom? I didn't hear you.
The longest vision for your business in the next 5 years.
Oh, I've got one. I'm going to be real open with you here. I I have this vision. It just came to me earlier this year. Um, I want to be on a stage and in the next 5 years, and I want to be talking to people about things that matter, right? Not buzzwords, but things that matter, right? And I think that's, yeah. I don't. It never hit me when I started Bellawood, but recently it's become, it's snuck into my brain in a big way. And I'd love to do that. And that's, I mean, there's probably tons more stuff.
This for you.
Oh,
I'm going to share with you. So tell me this. When the going gets tough, what keeps John inspired?
um, I I have this very, I believe, healthy obsession with mortality, to be honest with you. I learned that in fortunate and unfortunate ways in my late teens, early 20s. And I have kept that mentality on a daily basis. I actually have my life in weeks calendar off to my right here that I had to move to the office. My wife was sick of looking at it because I have to check off a box every week, right? For me, that mortality, when I feel really down, that's the first thing that comes to my mind of like, every second counts, man. Not in this like capitalist way where it's like I got to make another dollar, right? Not in that way at all. It's like I got to live this moment of life differently. Like this is a part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
And if it was easy, I don't know if it would be that enjoyable. And I think I've come to learn that too.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that whatever happens beyond this line, we all have beliefs and faith.
Yeah.
Never discount that in people. But one thing is for sure, in this body, we have a finite time. And
Yes.
and every day that goes by, we're getting closer. And we got out today. Some people didn't. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's precious that they can to treat it that way. So tell me this, John, what are you most hopeful for today?
Oh man. Um, More understanding of other people, I would say. I can't speak for the world, I guess, but just in what I've seen over the last decade in our country, it just seems like it's going in the wrong direction, you know. And I know you know what I'm talking about with that. And I'm sure all the listeners do too. I think we just all need to understand where everyone's coming from and treat everybody with respect and kindness and expect that in the same way, right? We're all going to have different opinions. If you dig deep enough, even the people that you think are that have shared all opinions with you, I guarantee if you dig deep enough, there's something you disagree on, and that's okay. That's okay. So I hope for healing in that world, man. I hope for healing in that space of like more understanding for each other. Let's get back to
Yes.
being the same species on this planet. Like we got to remember that.
Yeah, I love unity too, right? So just
Yeah.
let's come together and
Yeah.
see where we're. So tell me this: if you had a piece of advice to give someone that's listening to this podcast who's thinking about starting on their own journey as a founder or owner of their own business, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, don't, very cliche, but don't be what is a square peg in a round hole. Purpose, this word, this just Japanese term ikigai, or the reason for being. It's something I'm very connected with. I believe in your purpose, and I don't know if there's anything more important than figuring that out. And then if you're a founder, if you're an owner, or you're trying to start something new, make sure that those two things are in alignment. That's my biggest piece of advice. And if they're out of alignment, get back into alignment, because I think it's got to be so challenging. And I've done this, man. I did this for so many years in finance, where it was just, I just never had a passion around it, and it was like, what is holding me back here? And it was that there wasn't almost any piece of that was a part of my purpose. right? And buying into who you are, right? And truly owning that piece of it will make you successful beyond just the monetary ways. It'll make you successful in life in every aspect.
I've got one final question for you before we end today.
Okay.
If your younger self were watching this podcast, what would you tell him?
Um, take the chance sooner. Trust your gut. Um, you're going to mess up, and that's okay.
Good, good, good. Sheldon, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. Please tell our viewers about your business and how they can find you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me. I mostly just post on Instagram. So social media, you can find me on Instagram at Bellawood, BELLEAUWOOD_coaching. My website is bellawood.coach. I like working with people that are ready. That's hard to say, but they're ready to take that next step. It's kind of the only qualification that I have. Are you ready? Right? Like, are you ready to take the next step? And while I do fall in a couple industries specifically, a lot of the times, that's not by design. That's just kind of by default. So I love working with people. I love having open conversations, and I love these types of conversations, Tom. So I just really appreciate you having me on and being such a gracious host and asking such great deep questions. It's been an honor.
It was great to have you with us today. Thank you again, Jon.
Thank you so
And
much.
this is Opening Pathways with Tom LeNoble, and I'll see you next time.